to record. Last week, right, one of the tutorial class, I forgot to record. So I missed one recording here. Okay, but thank you for reminding. It's recording already, right? Okay, good. Okay, let's continue the very last adjustment. Okay, the last adjustment for this console question is relating to, you can see I have circled it in the balance sheet, is relating to this investment. Okay, start from this additional information. Pening's investment includes some investment, and they say this investment has increased in value. So the fair value actually increased during the financial year by how much? By 300K. So what do? Is you do not need to compare value and carrying amount. Straight away, they already give you the adjustment there. So the difference here is the fair value increased by how much? By 300K. So this is relating to the particular investment. So the investment actually increased in value. Okay, now I'm going to ask the whole class again. What will be your journal entry to record or take into account this increase in the value of your investment? Okay, let's try, student. What do you need to do? Your investment increase by 300K, right, during the year. So you have to debit what account? Credit what account? Okay, we get a few answers here already. Debit investment, correct, very good. The first journal entry is debit investment because investment increased by 300K. So your debit investment, 300K. And then he even mentioned debit investment, credit equity reserve. Very good, Ewan. That is the answer. You credit equity reserve. Why? Because this 300K, your investment increase, right? This will be a gain or a surplus to the company. So in year 2, you already learned how do you take into account this gain or surplus. You credit revaluation reserve. So this question here, they call it the revaluation reserve. They call it other equity reserve. If you look at the equity, you can see other equity reserve. Okay, so what do? Is you credit other equity reserve 300K. Take note, your revaluation gain, you would have to show it at the OCI part in your consolidated statement of comprehensive income. So don't forget, later at preparing console P&L, you have to show this 300K as well. Okay, students? Okay, very good, students. The last part here, this whole information is actually a trick question as well. This whole information is you're not required to do any adjustment because they say that the other equity reserve relates to investment. There is no acquisition or disposal during the year. So what do? You ignore the whole sentence there. Okay. So let's get back to the chat room. So students, so far everybody okay with the adjustment? So this is your last adjustment for practice question 2. Just want to get some feedback from the class. So students, all good? Yeah. You can give thumbs up in the chat room as well, the rest of the students. Okay, very good. Kang Wei, Siuman, Arisa. The thumbs up also got different color. Okay, Xin Yan and Chai Ying. Okay, Amanda also say good. Okay, after leaving also say good. After we have completed all your adjustment, the next step is my tips for all of you is prepare your consolidated P&L first before you prepare your balance sheet. Why? Because P&L have some information that you need to use in order to prepare your consolidated balance sheet. Okay, so we go to your P&L. Okay, let's go to P&L. Okay, this is the worksheet. I think in your tutorial question, I also give you the worksheet, right, in order to help you with the workings. So this is the full set of consolidated SCI you are supposed to prepare. So firstly, don't forget you always start off with the title And then after that, you do your worksheet. So your worksheet is the same as balance sheet, but for console P&L, you would need to copy the items from the question like revenue, cost of sale, gross profit. Okay. And then you have two columns, same, parent and subsea. So parent's figure copy back from the question. Okay, take note, subsea's figure, Bangkok, you can see I highlighted in yellow. Take note that because Penang and Bangkok, they officially become a group for how many months? Up to the balance sheet date, 4 months. So what must you do is for Bangkok's figure, you have to actually apportion everything by 4 over 12. So what do? Is you take the revenue times 4 over 12. So you can see that I have apportioned everything. Revenue, cost of sale, distribution cost, all the way up to income tax. Okay, take note. Because why you have to apportion? Because date of acquisition is not the same as your balance sheet date. And then your debit, you have debit, credit, and the last column here is your total group figure. So that is your consolidated statement of comprehensive income. Okay, this debit and credit column, what do? Is your journal entries earlier, right? Anything that is related to your P&L, your journal entry, would have to transfer inside the worksheet. Okay, so students, so far all doing good? Understand for your console P&L? Okay, you won't say okay. Um, so after that, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you your journal entries that you're supposed to put inside the worksheet. Okay, so there are a few journal entries here that you are supposed to put inside your worksheet. Okay, the first one, don't need to copy. This one you have. This is the first journal entry, which is relating to your intra-group sales and inventory. Debit purchases, debit sales, credit purchases. So debit sales, credit purchases is related to your P&L, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, you transfer to sales, debit sales, 4 million. Your purchases is your cost of sale, so you credit 4 million. Okay? And then your unrealized profit affects your cost of sale. So what must you do? You have to debit cost of sale for 100K. Okay, so you can see that you have each journal entry adjustment inside your worksheet. Okay, after that, the next journal entry that you're supposed to transfer is this depreciation. You reduce your depreciation, reduction in depreciation. So this reduction in depreciation actually affects your cost of sale. So what do? Is credit cost of sale 50K. Okay, another tips here I want to share with all of you is your journal entry. Let's say cost of sale, you got two items here, right? Do not add them together. Show them separately. Why? Because marks will be given based on the each item on the worksheet. So if you add them together, I would not know this figure is referring to what adjustment. That figure is referring to what adjustment. Okay, so take note of that, students. Okay, and then the last journal entry that's related to your console P&L is this reserve. Remember, this previous slide, we adjust the investment. So now what must you do? You credit OCI, right? So here, go all the way to other comprehensive income. Gain on revaluation of investment. You have to show it in your consolidated profit and loss account. Okay. Okay, so these are the, we only have a few adjustment there that is related to your consolidated profit and loss. Okay, students, so far, is everyone good? Okay, you know what to do, right? When you transfer your worksheet. So the other items that is not related to P&L, that journal entry is reserved for balance sheet later. It doesn't mean that you won't transfer to anywhere. Okay, so you can see that some of the items I do not transfer to your P&L. Okay, the next step is what must you do, students? Next step after you have transferred to your worksheet, the journal entry. What must you do, students? you have to add line by line. No more adjustment, right? So very good. You add line by line. Okay, go ahead and try to add line by line here, students. But I'm going to share with you one tips here. Very common that student made mistake for revenue. Okay, take note that revenue, when you add 92.5 million plus 15 million, and when you debit revenue means that you minus, not add. So you can see that 92.5 million plus 15 million minus 4 million. So your total for revenue is 103,500. This is very common. A lot of students make this mistake every single semester. Same for cost of sale. Cost of sale also very popular mistake student make. Okay, cost of sale, parent plus subsidy. When you debit cost of sale means that you plus cost of sale. When you credit cost of sale, it means that minus minus. Okay, so 70.5 million plus 12 million plus 400K minus 4 million minus 50K. Your total group figure for cost of sale is 78850. Okay, and then the rest you can just go and add yourself. Distribution costs, add together. Admin expenses, add together. Finance costs also add. And then the income tax. And then this one you just transfer to the last column, 500 and then 300 there. Okay. Okay, students. So far so good. Let me show you the answers here. Okay. So this one, the debit credit, I have this shown you. Now this is the final answer if you add line by line. Okay, so you can see here my profit for the year for the group is 10950, and then in my total comprehensive income, what is total comprehensive income? Is profit for the year or profit after tax plus the OCI component or the OCI section. So it's 11.75 million. Okay, students. Okay, next, what must we do, students? After we have add line by line, and after we have get the figure, profit for the year for the group, and also we have calculated the total comprehensive income for the group, do we stop here or we have to do extra work for consolidated P&L? Okay, Yiwen mentioned something. Yiwen said profit attribute to NCI, and then Mayan said NCI calculation. Yes, correct. Very good. For console, always remember, student, don't stop here. Normal company profit and loss, you stop here. But for console, if you stop here, you will lose a lot of marks because this part here will give you actually a lot of marks. The purple color, you can see that I have actually highlighted in purple. This contributes quite a lot of marks for your consolidated P&L. Okay, so what do we know is we have profit for the group, right, which is 10950. So what must we do is we have to split to NCI because this profit is not 100% owned by parent, and also you have to allocate it to the parent company. Okay, so what do we do is, let me put the total first. 10950, that is the total profit that you have to split, and the comprehensive income, the total you have to split is 10750. Okay, and remember I told you all is always start off by calculating NCI, which is correct, your classmate mentioned. So NCI here, okay, I'm going to ask the whole class again. This 10.95 million, how do we allocate to NCI? What must we do, the calculation for NCI, students? How should we split? We know parent is always the remaining amount. We always start off with NCI first. So how do we allocate this 10.95 million to NCI? What must we do, class? Okay. Any ideas, students? Or you are not sure? Not very sure with your NCI? Students, we have 42 participants in today's class, which is double than normal. Okay. Okay, not very sure, students. Okay, Yiwen posted profit for the year in sub C times by 4/12. Okay, Yiwen, your formula here is correct, but partially correct. We still have a few more adjustments that we need to do for NCI. Okay, which is good. You give the answer, partial answer here. Okay, anyone who wants to try profit for the year times by 4/12? Okay, if you are not sure, maybe some of you are quite shy here. Okay, not sure. Okay, what must you do? Yiya said profit for the year in sub C times by 4/12 times by 20%. You are correct also, Yiya, but also partially correct. Okay. Um, let me show you what must you do. Very good. How do you calculate for NCI? You always refer to profit for sub C. So if Bangkok's profit for the year 3.9 million, right? Correct. Okay, good. 3.9 million. We know that your friend or classmate already learned that this 3.9 million is for the whole year. The group only operates for 4 months. So you have to times 4/12. Okay, this is very good. Okay, what happens to your upstream sales? Very good. You even mentioned adjust unrealized profit for upstream sales. Mayen also said you have to deduct the unrealized profit from the upstream sales. So always don't forget, last week, remember, subsea sell to parent, right? We make this unrealized profit, right? This unrealized profit is how much? Like 400K, right? So this 400K, you have to adjust your NCI in your profit calculation. So this is where you are supposed to adjust. So what must you do now? That figure here minus 400K unrealized profit. Why? Because it is from upstream sales. If you do downstream sales, you don't need to minus this 400K unrealized profit. Okay. One more adjustment to go, which is your depreciation. This 3.9 million has not taken into account the reduction in depreciation. Remember, your depreciation reduced by 50K, right? If your depreciation reduced by 50K, what happens to your profit? Your profit will increase. So plus 50K depreciation adjustment. And then only this whole formula times by 20% because NCI owns 20%. Okay. So what I want you all to do now is go and take your calculator, punch, key in the formula, and then tell me what is the answer for NCI. Okay. I give you all a few minutes to put in your equation. Okay, once you have calculated NCI, what is your answer? Then parent very easy already. You just minus 10.95 million. So the remaining portion is for the parent company. Okay. Okay. Anyone wants to double confirm the answer for NCI? Alvin, very good. 190K. How about parent? What is the remaining portion for your parent company? 10760. Okay, good. That is the answer. So you all fill up the worksheet. So let me fill up. Its NCI is 190, and then the parent is 10 760. Okay, so this part settle. Then now what must we do? We have to move down to total comprehensive income, right? Total comprehensive incomes is profit plus OCI. I think last week in workshop, someone asked the question, can I just take the total comprehensive income for sub-C times by, let's say NCI is 20 times by 20%. You are not supposed to do that. Okay, because of this here, you can see the profit you already adjusted for your unrealized upstream sales, and then you have to take into account the depreciation. So what do you do is, usually I advise students is take the profit that you have calculated, 190 plus. Okay, plus OCI is you refer to subsist OCI. Bangkok don't have any other comprehensive income, zero. So very good, make your life easier. 190 plus zero. So your NCI, I write outside because I can't write on the screen there. 190, and then the remaining portion is for your parent. It's 11560. Okay. Okay. So you just fill up. Miss, we have one question here. If there is a figure for other comprehensive income in sub-C, do we need to apportion to 4/12 and then multiply by 20%? Good question, even. If let's say Bangkok has OCI, okay, that OCI here, yes, you have to apportion times 4/12 times by 20%. Very good. And then you get the figure here. You add to plus 190. And then that will be your total comprehensive income for NCI. Okay. If you ask this question, because usually most of the time, Bangkok or the sub-C will have OCI one, not zero one. So this question is simple. They just 190 plus zero equals to 190. Okay. Okay, students, do you have completed your profit and loss? Is everybody clear about how do you do your consolidated P&L? Okay, let's see if you have any question that you want to ask me about consolidated P&L. I can actually answer you right now before we move on to balance sheet. Yeah, everyone doing okay? Okay. Miss, okay. Yes. Okay, Silman, you have question, right? Okay, Miss, the calculation for first NCI. Yes, correct, Silman. So do you have more question here? Oh, okay. The calculation for NCI first, we need to minus the unrealized profit and depreciation. Yes, correct. The unrealized profit, is it because we took 3.9 million from the question? Yes. This 3.9 million, that profit for sub-C for Bangkok, this 3.9 million has not taken into account the unrealized profit, because your unrealized profit has not been adjusted yet, and also have not taken into account the reduction in depreciation. If you read the question, your depreciation has not been adjusted or reflected in the financial statement. So this 3.9 million they calculated is without depreciation and without unrealized profit. Okay, Simon? Good. Okay. Students, if you got more questions later, I can answer you. So what we do is we move to balance sheet. Okay, before balance sheet, this is when I'm going to show you the workings here. Okay, this is working number 3. Remember last week 1, week 2, student asked me, Miss, when are you going to show me working 3? So today is the day I'm going to show you working 3, and then later I'm going to show you working number 4. Okay, this working number 3 is you are supposed to calculate the group total retained earnings at your balance sheet date. Okay, so for this question, we want to find out what is our group RE retained earnings as at 30th Sep 17. So if you want the group retained earnings, it means that we take the parent figure plus the subsea figure here. Okay, there are a few ways that you can calculate group retained earnings, but for me, I like to use this way. So what do I do is I always start off with the retained earnings as at your balance sheet or as at question, according to the question, given question. So we have here two columns, Penang, which is your parent, and then we have Bangkok, which is your subsea, right? So how do you get your retained profit or earnings? Just go to the question. Let me circle the retained earnings. So for Penang, what is the figure? 12.3 million. For Bangkok, what is the figure for Bangkok's retained earning? 4.5 million. Okay. So this part here, start off with the question, retained earnings from the question. Okay. And then we know that for Bangkok's retained earnings, 4.5 million is not the actual retained earnings because throughout the year there are a few adjustments. So what must we do is we have to do adjustment to Bangkok's retained earning. Okay, the first adjustment is your pre-acquisition retained earnings. This 4.5 million includes pre-acquisition retained earnings, which is before they become a group. So what do we want is we have to remove out pre-acquisition retained earnings. Okay, what is the figure? This one you have calculated already. Remember last week in goodwill calculation, I show you a few steps, right? How to get your pre-acquisition retained earnings, right? Refer back to last week. Okay, the figure here is 3.2 million. Okay, minus. And then this retained profit 4.5 million has not taken into account the reduction in depreciation. So what must we do? We have to add the depreciation 50K because uh, reduce in depreciation will increase your profit for the year. And also remember your unrealized profit, right? Okay, this unrealized profit you have to adjust as well. So what do? Remove out the unrealized profit 400K. Okay, so at the end of the day, your final retained earnings for Bangkok or for subsea at the end of balance sheet date is 950 after all the adjustment. So we actually cannot use 4.5 million. We need to use 950K. And then take note, this 950K is not 100% owned, so you have to times by 80%. So the figure here is 760. And then what do? If you want to find the group parent plus subsea? So the total here would be 13060. Okay, let me write working tree. Let me give you a few minutes to absorb and also to, if you want to copy some information. Okay, now I'm going to just ask students, are you all clear with how do you calculate working tree retained profit? So you can see I circle this 13060, right? This final figure working tree, you just transfer it into your worksheet already. So later under retained earnings in your worksheet, your retained earnings don't need to do any more adjustment because this is your calculation already. Okay, so I just go through the chat room. Anyone wants to ask me question about retained profit or retained earnings? Okay, can you all understand when I explained earlier how do you get your group retained earnings? Okay, good. Xiuman, Yiwen. The rest of the student, are you all clear about retained earnings or retained profit? Okay, Alvin, Kang Wei, okay, thumbs up. Okay, if you refer to your textbook or other books, right, you can see that there are different ways to calculate retained profit. If you want to try other way, also can. But as long as you get the same answer or the same figure as the group retained earning as at 30th September 2017. Okay. Okay, if students, the rest of you, if you have no queries or no question, I'm going to move on to the last working, which is working number 4, NCI. Calculate your NCI. Okay, got one question pop up. Miss, usually there are any other adjustment for retained earnings that is different from this question? Okay, Mayan, very good. Very good question here. The adjustment for retained earnings usually it can be different. It doesn't mean that it has to be depreciation, retain unrealized, retain profit and so on. It could other type of the adjustment. You have to read the question. Okay, you read the question, see the question has what adjustment on the date on the date of acquisition, then you have to adjust in your retained earnings. So always take note that any adjustment that will affect your retained earnings or will affect your profit, you have to adjust it into working number 3. Okay, students. Okay, let's move on to working number 4. Okay, working number 4, this part here don't need to copy. This one is your console P&L. You already have the answer earlier. I need the answer here actually to fit in into your working number 4. Okay, working number 4 here is NCI. Okay, this NCI is when on your balance sheet date, which is 30th September 17. So this is when you are supposed to calculate your non-controlling interest. Okay, non-controlling interest, you can see we calculated earlier on already, 1st June 17. We use the fair value method, right? We times by the share of subsea. And on 1st June, we know that your NCI is worth 3.5 million. Correct. This is the answer last week. So you have to refer back to goodwill, get the answer, 3.5 million. Okay, your NCI, this is not the final figure because during the financial year, you actually calculate profit and you allocate total comprehensive income for NCI, right? So what do you do is you have to add total comprehensive income from your statement of P&L or SCI. It has to be for NCI. So what is the figure? If you go to your console P&L, your total comprehensive income is how much? 190. So what do? You add these two figures up together. So your NCI, your actual amount as at 30th September is 3.69 million. It's not 3.5, but 3.69. So later on, this is working number 4. So this one you will put inside your NCI in your worksheet later. Okay. Okay, students. Are we all doing good? Okay, everyone still can follow, right? I hope not too sleepy because it's approaching lunchtime already. Okay, finally, we finish from A all the way to remaining 20%. So that remaining 20% is you are supposed to prepare your consolidated balance sheet. Can you believe it? We start from beginning group structure all the way up to working number 4. Okay, so what do you need to do now is I want all of you uh, prepare your consolidated balance sheet, refer back to all your journal entries, transfer all your journal entries that is related to balance sheet into your consolidated worksheet there. Okay, so what do you need to do is, so this is your consolidated balance sheet. This part here, I just want to show you the journal entries that you have to transfer everything inside the worksheet. Okay, and you can see that my debit column and credit column I already fill up according to your journal entry. Okay, so if you let's take this journal entry, which is relating to your goodwill on 1st June 17. Okay, so you can see here I debit goodwill 9.3 million. So here my goodwill, you can see I put debit 9.3 million, and take note that always write working number 2 because your goodwill you have a lot of calculation how to calculate your goodwill. If your answer is wrong for 9.3 million, let's say it's wrong, what do I do is I will still give you marks. I will go back to your workings and give you partial marks. So very important, you have to show working number 2 for goodwill. Okay, and then I debit shares. So shares 5 million, you can see elimination 5 million. Okay, this part here, retained earnings. Retained earnings, be careful. Don't go and transfer to your retained earnings because we have calculated this in working number 3. Okay, and then credit property. Property is 1.2 million. So this is credit property. Credit investment in Bangkok, elimination. So you can see 12.8 million. And NCI, be careful. NCI, don't go and transfer to your worksheet because NCI 3.5 million is already calculated in working number 4. So if you see retained earnings, I just plug in the total figure earlier on, 13060. Your non-controlling interest also, I have plugged in the figure earlier on, which is 3.69 million. Okay. Okay, students, and then the rest of the journal entry you just transfer accordingly. Okay. Okay, after that, after journal entry, what do you need to do? The next step. So the rest of the journal entry I would not need to explain. You can refer accordingly to how I move it. Okay, after that, students, what do you need to do after journal entries? Add them up line by line. Okay, we got a few questions already. Yingjia, Miss, for Bangkok, why don't we have 2 times 4 over 12? Okay, very good question here. For your balance sheet, do not apportion your subsidiary or Bangkok's figure. This is also another common mistake that student made in exam. Why? Because for asset, liability, and equity, when Penang buy over Bangkok, they don't buy 4 months. They buy the whole asset, they buy the whole equity, and they buy the whole liability. So you can see that balance sheet subsidiaries figure is full figure. Unlike your consolidated P&L, because revenue, you only can recognize revenue as a group for 4 months. That's why you apportion it times 4 over 12. Expenses also is incurred 4 months as a group. You cannot recognize the remaining expenses that is not as a group. And then income also you earn as a group 4 months. So therefore you apportion. But asset, liability, and equity, you don't apportion because parent buy, you buy the whole asset, right? When you buy the company, you buy their asset, you buy their equity, and you buy their liability. Okay. Alvin say add. Yes. Good. Add line by line. Okay. Okay. Jiaying, thank you, Miss. So can anybody tell me what is your balancing figure after you have add line by line. Let me double check my answer, the balancing figure. Can anybody tell me the answer, the balancing figure? Even say 63.8 million. Okay, let's see the answer. I'm going to show you. Okay, this is your very good. Ewan, your answer is correct. So this is the final consolidated balance sheet where I already add line by line. And you can see that my total asset is 63.8 million. So it has to balance the total equity and liability 68.3 million. Okay. And don't forget, students, always remember to put in your title before you do your worksheet. So the title here is Consolidated Statement of Financial Position for Penang, because Penang is the parent company for the year ended 30th Sep 2017. Okay. Okay, right now what I will do is, because we still have about 10 more minutes or less, what I want to do is I'm going to take questions if you all have questions, any queries, because today is the last tutorial for consolidation ready. After today, we are not going to talk anymore or touch anything about console until maybe towards the end of the semester. Okay, so if you have question, you can post on the group chat. Okay, I have one question here. Miss, how about share premium? Cause there is one line share premium. There is no share premium here, Ewan, because share premium, right? You are not supposed to calculate share premium already. You remember your company law, they changed the law, right? So right now, companies are not supposed to split their share into ordinary share and share premium. You just lump the whole share into your uh, equity or your share cap. Okay, so you can see here my equity share of 1 ringgit each. This is the total amount, 12 million. I do not split it into share premium. Okay, Kang Wei, you have another question. Let's say if there is impairment in investment in the parent's book, do we have to reserve the impairment before doing consolidation? Uh, you mean that before they officially become a group, parent and subsidy, parent has an impairment, right? Or I think probably you are referring to, is it impairment in the goodwill? Kang Wei, are you asking me if, let's say, what happens here after you recognize the goodwill? Goodwill is intangible asset, right? And goodwill is do not have a life here, so goodwill has to be impaired. Is it you're asking that question, Kang Wei? Okay, just clarify with me. I go to Siuman's question first. Siuman asks, will the content learned after this chapter be assessed in console as adjustment? You mean this adjustment here? Okay, Siuman, take note that your consolidation adjustment doesn't mean that this question, the adjustment is like that. Final exam will be very similar. Will be exactly the same. No. Um, all the adjustment that you have learned in lecture, I have covered in lecture, will be tested for final exam. So you have even sales of PPE, right? Sales of PPE will also be tested. Okay, just take note about that. So you actually, I cannot memorize all the adjustment that you have in your tutorial question and then later apply it exactly the same note, because it depends on situation by situation and depends on the question as well. Okay. Okay. Kang Wei, uh, Okay, no, impairment in the investment in subsidy for the first year, do we have to reserve? You are saying that the subsidiary already has a goodwill, right? And they impair the goodwill, right, before doing consolidation, right? Is that your question? If the subsidiary has the goodwill, what must you do is you have to remove out subsidiaries goodwill first before you can before you can actually combine as a group. So your question here, do we have to reverse out? Yes, you have to take the impairment out for the second year before doing console. Okay, so I hope I answer your question, Kang Wei. Okay, it's the rest of the students. Okay, good. The rest of the students, we have 41 of you. Do you want to ask any question? Okay, maybe some of you might have this idea that how do I give marks for final exam? Okay, let me just show you. Okay, for example, your PPE item, right? Okay, your PPE here is 38.25 million. How do I give marks is I will have marks. So for PPE, let's say it's 2 marks here. If your final answer here is correct, 38.25 million, straight away I will give you that 2 marks already. Because no point for me to just check back because it's correct already. But let's say you get wrong, what do I do if I move backwards? So let's say one of your debit is correct, the entry, I will give you 0.5 marks. So you actually will gain some partial marks if you get one of the items here wrong. You would not lose that whole 2 marks unless your whole item here is wrong. Then of course you will lose that whole 2 marks. And also balancing figure, no marks will be given for balancing figure because I know a lot of students, right? They cannot balance their balance sheet for console. So no point penalizing you all to get the balancing figure. Okay. Kang Wei, you have question. Would you recommend us to practice the question in Excel since it most likely final exam will be conducted online? I would say that you all practice in Word document. Okay, because I think we are still discussing whether should we use Excel or should we use Word. But for me, I will lean towards Word document because Word document would be easier for you because for exam, you are not only need to do consolidation, you have theory question, essay question. So if you do in Excel, I don't know how are you going to type your answers long essay question in Excel. So most likely will be in Word document. Okay, so try to practice in Word document. Unless you open two document, you prepare in Excel first, and then you copy and paste inside your Word document, then that one is okay. That means your Excel is your uh, workings as an like a working sheet like that. Okay. Mm, Silman say, okay. Mayan said, Miss, for the current slide that you are showing, is the investment in Bangkok? Okay, good here, Mayan. I forget to mention that the investment in Bangkok are good. It's supposed to be 12.8 million. Okay, because you are supposed to eliminate the whole amount. But later on, you can see here that at the worksheet, your notes here, you recognize that loan note as a liability 800K. Okay, good point here. Siuman, not Siuman Mayan. Okay, so the answer is 12.8 million there. Okay, Alvin, Excel use rep text. Okay, students, do you have any more final question? We left about two more minutes till the end of your tutorial. Okay, good. Thanks for pointing it out. It's supposed to be 12.8 million. Okay, for those of you, if you have no more question, then I will wrap up in the tutorial for today. So for this week, there will be no more live workshop. Next week we'll have live workshop. That will be assignment briefing. So after maybe around 3 plus, I will upload the assignment question, and then you all can have a look over the weekend, and then we will discuss in live workshop next week. Okay, so students, so I will end the tutorial class here. Everyone take good care. If you have more more question, you can post on the Facebook group. So far, nobody asked me question on the Facebook group yet. Are you too shy? I only have 1 or 2 posts only. Keep the question coming. Thanks, Marianne. Happy Labor Day to all of you. I will see everyone next week. Okay, so take care and thank you, class. Okay, welcome everyone.